welcome to We'd Rather Be Reading. My name's Jerrica.
And I'm Lia. It's been a while.
It has been a while. Are we having a low, nice tone today?
Yes, we are. We are speaking in our
and all of a sudden,
sensual...
we have become
We are doing romance. Here, we're going to be talking you through all of them.
This is an erotica podcast by Jerrica and Lia.
Yeah, so very erotic.
Actually, if you want to know something that reminds me of, I was with one of our mutual friends the other day, and she is on Tinder because she is single. And we have both been with people before Tinder
But
came
do you know
about.
my husband had Tinder for a bit?
And he didn't tell me. I was like,
I was not happy about that. His old co-workers installed Tinder on his phone and then made... had a lot of fun kind of trying to find matches for him because he matched with a lot of people because he's very handsome.
Yeah, but like...
But then I found out and I was like, no, not okay. Please make this stop now.
Was it for like research purposes only?
I think I have no idea.
For fun?
That's what he said. I don't know. I was like, delete
it is
this,
a fun
please.
game. But it's fun for like a hot minute, not fun for like
But I also find that it's kind of rude if you're not actually looking to be on Tinder because it's like false advertisement. Like,
true.
You know, because most people that are on there, I'm assuming they actually want to meet someone. And if you then have... Exactly. And if you then have like all of these people that are on there just because their friends think it's fun to see how many matches they can get, that's kind of crappy for everyone involved.
Totally. But I also learned that this, like, when you don't put a profile picture, it means you're only there for the sex. And guess what? I am never going to go meet up with somebody I don't know what they look like.
No.
Like, oh, okay, thank you, John 123, without a profile picture. Let's go have the sex. And I show up and you're like this disgusting, raunchy old man, you know?
Do you know... What I keep thinking with this Russia-Ukraine thing, it's not really about Russia and Ukraine. It's about that Russian, I think it's like the foreign minister, Lavrov.
Okay.
He is like the ugliest man I have ever seen in my entire life.
Okay.
And every time I see a picture of him, I keep thinking, those poor girls that he most likely, pays to sleep with. Because no one could love that face.
You have an unlovable face.
I'm going to show you a picture. I'm going to show you a picture. And I'm sorry if someone looks like him and I'm just dissing you, but I am concerned with these poor girls because I can also see him being like Russian, probably wealthy, probably all of these things, and then
like a bastard,
and then these women that will have to sleep with him.
Yeah, he looks angry.
His face looks like he's melting.
It's a melting face.
Yeah.
It is a melting face. Melting. And he looks like very unpleasant.
He looks very unpleasant. Yeah. I mean, he's very unpleasant. He's literally like enforcing Putin's ideas how to go to war with, to invade Ukraine. Is not like Ukrainians were like, yay, let's go to war. They were like, hey, stop invading our country. Which is a fair point for going to war, really. But Russia should just get the fuck out of there. Yeah. You're not welcome. Go away. All right, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're not here to talk about your political update on the Russia-Ukraine conflict.
We are talking about books. And that's why I brought up the Tinder thing. Because I decided that if we're going to make a game out of Tinder, we might as well figure out how to create a real-life reverse harem.
Mm-hmm. We had some ideas there.
Through the guys we find on Tinder. And let me tell you, we found the perfect reverse harem, but it added up to maybe a little bit more than we could handle. 9, right? We were up at 9. Yeah. And 9 is just too many. Like, logistically, how are you going to have a house with 9 people, let alone one bed with 9 people? And then, are they involved with each other, or is it just proper harem where you're the only girl, and then you have to sleep with 9 guys all the time, and it's just too many.
You're going to have to get a castle with, like, a harem's wing.
Harem wing. Okay,
where you
like
go
the consorts.
You go and choose your
flavor of the day.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna have to be old-timey and exotic like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Kind of like in the Guilt Gleam, the harems, the saddles.
Oh, but we hate it.
We do hate that. Yeah. We do, and I don't think this is any better, honestly. These poor 9 guys. having to share one woman.
But if we go into like war when we don't have electricity and there's no more internet and blah blah blah, we have to go back to olden times. So we're gonna need a builder, a gardener. Sommelier wouldn't be so bad to know which one was the right one to drink. And then we needed a doctor because, like, you know, we're going back to olden times here.
Yeah, we should always have a doctor.
And
I mean, if something's wrong with you, you need someone to tell you. Can you know do
hunter,
do the construction? You know, it's gonna be great. Yeah, but we have plans for our friend. So it's gonna be she's gonna have more men than she knows how to do it soon when we're done, right?
It's excellent.
It's excellent.
It's the best use of Tinder
your
I've ever
dating
heard of.
needs to us. We will hook you up with a reverse harem of choice. But we've been reading this book this week. We couldn't tell you which book last time we talked to you because, well, you have a baby. I have no excuse. We're just disorganized these days.
It is a cloudy beginning of the year.
Yeah, you have a valid excuse. I just don't have one. I'm just not on top of my game right now. What can I say?
It's passing on to you through.
It's a weird feeling. I tend to be very much on top of stuff, but it's been a thing. And I'm just for the first time actually studying this cover of this book and realizing that it's tree branches. I thought it was dragons when I seen it the first few times. But we've read An Unkindness of Magicians by Kat Howard. And this book first came out September 26th in 2017. And there's part 2, I believe, coming out, but it does not have a publishing date yet. So this is one of our extremely freaking slow authors.
That's not great.
5 years, you know, since this book came out. But, you know, he who waits for something good or whatever the expression is, who knows. This cover has trees on it, though. Which I'd never realized. Like I said, I thought it was dragons.
And it's white and beige. I think it's beautiful. I think it's a really pretty painting. I think it tells me nothing about what the book is about. In fact, it makes me think that the book is way more
artsy.
Blah. Yeah. I was going to say blah, blase, like artsy, for sure.
Yeah.
Than it actually is.
But I just like the title. An Unkindness of Magicians.
Yeah.
I love all of this, how you just give random words to a group of things. Like, I love Murder of Crows and all of this. Like, I find it fascinating that you can just do, like, whatever they're called. Like, I looked up a few of those before, and it's hilarious, the names, like Pride of Lions. And
when I was looking up for other reviews on this book, I typed in Google An Unkindness of, and then it said magicians, and it also said ravens. And then I thought, what would An Unkindness of Ravens book be about? Would it be about ravens being unkind? Like, is this a bird book?
I mean, there's like totally real names of groups of animals that are like, did you know that you can have a grumble of pugs?
No.
Or a kindle of kittens?
But that's cute.
Or an embarrassment of pandas.
No.
Yes.
Is that a real thing? Yes. An embarrassment?
Yeah, and a congress of baboons.
Okay, because I can see that. That's civilized.
A prickle of hedgehogs. A bloat of hippopotamuses.
What?
Yeah. A mischief of mice. That's my next book.
That's cute.
That's gonna be my next book.
One.
A mischief of mice.
I love mischief. That's just a cool word.
A dropping of ducks. A waddle of penguins.
That's cute too.
Memory of elephants. A flamboyance of flamingos.
A memory of elephants. That's not like how you associate with a group of elephants.
A bouquet of hummingbirds. A whoop of gorillas.
You really looked into this.
A dazzle of zebras. This is like a raft of otters. This is great. A concerto of crickets.
So, authors, here are all the titles of all of your next books.
A blessing of unicorns.
A blessing of unicorns.
Or a wisdom of wombats.
That could be a very easy fantasy novel. A blessing of unicorns.
Yeah.
And your novel could be about anything.
And I'm gonna have 2 books now: Mischief of Mice and A Wisdom of Wombats.
Wisdom of Wombats.
That's gonna be great.
Maybe
I'll add in a scurry of squirrels.
I would definitely read Mischief of Mice.
Or A Troubling of Goldfish.
I might have read that also.
A Cackle of Hyenas.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
A walk of snails. Okay, enough.
Okay.
A stubbornness or crash of rhinoceroses. That was it. My last one. I'm done now, but I love these. I find them hilarious, these kind of names for things. So I would have picked this book just from the title, An Unkindness of Magicians. And shortly about Kat Howard. She is an American author and editor. And her stories have been published in the anthology stories and Oz Reimagined. She's also a contributor to magazines such as Lightspeed, Subterranean, Uncanny Magazine, and Apex. And she won the Alex Awards in 2018. So what is this book about? Do you have a super summary?
No, and I thought about it on the way here. I wonder if Leah's going to ask me for a super summary of this book. I better re-listen to this book, which is 11 hours in my short 15-minute drive here.
How did that go?
And try to figure out what the heck this book was about the entire time.
But I think I might have a slightly longish super summary because I'm not good at the very short super summaries. Yeah. This book is really about Sydney.
Yeah.
Sydney is a magician, and Sydney is kind of like the central part of this whole story, because you have the unseen world, which is the magical world, and it's in New York, and to be a part of the unseen world, you have to have a certain amount of magic. So you need to prove your magic to access places like bars for magicians and stuff. You need to be able to light a candle, and there's 3 different tests you can do, which if you have a little bit of magic, you should be able to do them. It gives you a headache or, some other physical illness kind of symptom when you use magic, but if you have it, you can use it kind of thing. In the unseen world, it's kind of controlled by houses, and this is, very common, houses of things. The House Prospero is one of them. There's House Merlin. There's a few other houses. They're great houses. They've been around for ages and ages and ages. And we find out that these houses all draw their magic from Shadows. And Shadows is its own house that is on an island in a lake in Central Park. And when you use Shadows magic, it does not give you any kind of physical ailment when you use magic. It's pain-free. And in order to keep this pain-free, sacrifices need to be given to Shadows, and sacrifices as in people.
Yeah.
So these families give a child most of the time to Shadows, and this child is then basically drained of their magic by having it cut out of their skin, out of their bones, over and over and over again for many years, to add to this pool of magic that then all of these great houses, all of the magicians in these great houses can draw power from without it hurting themselves.
Yeah. All we need to do is hurt a child. So.
Yeah, we just need to give them a firstborn. All good,
It's worth it.
And every 21 years or so, there's a turning of the wheel, which is when the shift of power in the unseen world happens. So there's one house that kind of controls all the rules and the magic supply in the unseen world. And when the turning happens, which it's very unclear how the turning decides to happen. It just kind of happens. I don't think anyone actually triggers it. It comes to a certain point and then it's triggered. And this time the turning happens after just 13 years, which is earlier than any other turning as they can remember. And during this turning, every house can compete with a champion, either someone from their own house or someone they pay to compete for them. And if you are not part of a house, but you're a magician and you want to start a house, or if you're part of a house and you want to break free and start your own house, the only time to do so is to compete with a champion in one of these turnings of the wheel. And then if you manage to be successful, you can start your own house. So the winner gets to basically be in charge of magic until the next turning. And House Merlin has been in charge of the magic for many years, and we find out throughout this book that they're the ones that actually created House of Shadows. And that Shara, who runs the House of Shadows, she's an aunt in the House Merlin. So she's of House Merlin to begin with, but she's bound to the House of Shadows. She cannot actually leave. But she's the one who carves the magic out of all these children. So horrible, horrible person. Now, Sydney, we meet Sydney at first when she does this fantastical feat of magic where she basically in New York makes this whole crossing, all the cars, she makes them float and no one even notices or knows that they're floating. And she does this magical feat as an audition to be the champion of one of these houses, so she gets to compete in the turning. And we find out that Sydney was left in the House of Shadows as a payment for something she didn't do. So she was left as a sacrifice. And it turns out later that she was of House Prospero. Mm-hmm. And we find out also later that she had a twin. And Miranda, who's the head of House Prospero, it was her babies. And she was told that her daughter had died.
Yeah.
By Sydney's father. So she's only raised the boy, Gray, instead. And she's been in House Shadow for many, many years, and she's been trained in House Shadow, because apparently they train them until they either are strong enough to escape the house or they die. And most people die. There's only like one person before that has made it out of House Shadow. And she wins this audition, so she will be a champion for Laurent, who's not representing a house, but he wants to form a house. Beauchamp, that's his last name, Laurent Beauchamp. So he's a candidate house. And Miranda, who's Sydney's mom, but we don't know that until later, she's the head of House Prospero, and she's also on the hunt for a champion, because her only son, Gray, who is Sydney's twin, which we find out much later too, is not she kicked him out of the house because he is not a great person. He is actually pretty fucking awful, because he doesn't have a lot of magic. Like, he's not a very strong magician, and in order to get more magic, he literally murders girls with little magician and carves the magic, like takes their finger bones out and grinds them and drinks them to steal their magic. So he's super creepy. And he's championing for himself, because he also wants to start his own house. So he has another candidate house. And he is best friends with Laurent. But Laurent doesn't know this about Gray. He doesn't know that he murders girls and steals their finger bones. Like, he knows none of this. He's just friends. The champion that House Prospero gets when they hold auditions is the heir of House Merlin. Yeah. Ian. Is that his name? I think it's Ian. And he is doing it for House Prospero because he wants to piss his father off, because he's broken with his father, because he doesn't agree with the way his father has run the unseen world and House Merlin for the past few years. Or for the past many years, actually. So during one of these first challenges, when Sydney's in it, she casts a spell to make everyone dance, but it's spelled away so that only people using shadows magic will dance. And Ian turns out that he is the only magician of the powerful houses who doesn't use shadow magic. He uses his own magic. And he takes then the pain and the suffering, the payment for using his own magic. So throughout this, we basically follow Sydney, we follow Gray as he murders girls, we follow Ian, and we follow Laurent, and through all of these challenges here and there. And Ian and Sydney, they start immediately sleeping together, which I was a little bit like, this is very sudden. Like, I was all for it, but she's only been out of shadows for about 6 months. And I was like, if she's never been out since she was a baby, she's very, quick on all of the sex stuff. And, for someone who doesn't know the world at all, like, she had to learn how everything works. Right. And Ian, but
that's pretty basic primal stuff.
Fair enough. And Ian also introduces Sydney to Vernis, who is the only other person to come out of shadows. And Sydney has tried not to contact her because Shara said that Vernis would be a help to her, and she doesn't want to do anything that Shara tells her to do. Oh. But then it turns out that Shara only said that to make sure that Sydney would not go to Vernis, because she knew this about Sydney, and Vernis is actually good, and she wants to help. And together they teach Laurent, for example, how to use his own magic and not Shadow's magic, and they try to make the change in the unseen world. And then we follow them through all of these challenges, and through hooking up, and to falling out, and learning that Miranda is her mother, and then taking over House Prospero, and Miranda loses her magic. There's lots of stuff happening. Yeah. But this is like the overall, and in the end then Laurent wins, and he gets to open his house, and he gets also to be in control of the magic ray. Anyways, This is kind of my summary of the book.
Yeah.
I left out quite a few bits. It's really good, I would say, to read it.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add? Did I miss anything?
I would say that, like, you didn't remember who won at the end was something I mentioned to you earlier today, is that it wasn't memorable. I read the book, stopped reading it, read a new book, and then couldn't remember what the heck this book was about. And it was just the last book I read before this most previous one. And I don't know why it wasn't memorable. Was it because there was too many characters? Or was it because that it was in third person and I don't love it so much? Or because I read it and listened to it, like mostly listening in the recap, but then I read it to get through it to, like, I don't know, follow along easier.
Because I read it as a book, and I loved in Storytel how he kept track of where I was, so I could switch in between.
So good.
So it's doing this with the new book as well. You can switch in between. Anyways, but I think if I would have just listened, I would have been like, who, what are we doing? Who's this?
Yeah.
Because it switches in the middle of chapters between different people's perspectives.
Right.
And when you're reading it, it's okay because you kind of get immediately who it's for. But I'm thinking with just one narrator, if you don't pay attention when she says whatever, Ian, then I would have been like,
her voice
Sydney's
is
doing
good, but not a
what?
distinctive change to character. One thing I loved about this book was the houses. How the houses are magic, and the houses do stuff, and the houses give you food, and the houses
and the house does not want to be alone.
Yeah, and the houses have their personalities.
I forgot to say that, but Sydney goes in and she destroys the House of Shadows, because during one... Magic is misfiring. I forgot this part. But magic is misfiring because the head of House Merlin, who's been controlling magic, he's lost his magic. And he was the one who set up this whole shadow pool to begin with. And because he did like this drain on the shadow's magic to store magic, like steal it off, siphon it off for himself, he's corrupted the magic that's supplying the whole magic community with their power. And during one trial, there's like a misfiring of magic, and the magician, she dies because she sprouts like this whole spring of woods, and then Sydney goes in and she takes all the magic within her, and she gets like this green, like her eyes turn green, and like she just holds this magic because she's been grown up in shadows, so she can be a conduit for magic, which is really, really cool. And then she uses that magic to destroy House Shadows later, which is also really, really awesome. But when she destroys House Shadows, she rescues the girl, Sarah, I think her name is, who was one of Grey's first victims, and she was of like her name is it's a flower or something, because it's the Valentine girls and they're all named after flowers. I can't remember what her name was, but because part of the story is also told from the perspective of this woman who works for a law firm, and of this other woman who works with her, who's trying to find out what happened to her best friend because she saw someone murder her and then step through nothingness and disappear, kind of thing. So it's like, I really enjoyed this story. Like, I really liked it when I was reading it. Like, I got into it and I was all on board with the houses and with the turning, and I was like, when it ended, I'm like, Sydney has some magic. I'm like, what? No, this is not okay. Like, this needs to change. She needs to get her magic back. And but like you said, it's a lot of people to remember, and it's a lot of names to keep track of, and there's so many challenges, and they keep introducing, not for very long, but like all of these characters from all these different houses, just to kind of, because they meet them in challenges and so on and so forth. But it adds up to the number of people you need to keep track of and the number of people you need to remember. So it was a bit hard for that. And also I did finish it like more than a week ago, and I've been reading preachy stories since then. So, you know, I have also flushed a lot of the information. But I found it really good.
Yeah, it was a good story. I think that I would have preferred to watch this. You know, when we talk about what is going to be like a book versus movie, and
this would be like really cool.
I think this would be a really cool TV show or a movie, and I would rather watch it than read it. Because I got too lost in it. And I know, of course, right now, like, we have a small baby and she's like crying. I'm trying to read while she's crying, and my brain is melted and I'm going off of very little sleep and all of the things. But I still would like to see it as a show.
Yeah. But I mean, I liked how it ended with like basically Sydney destroying shadows and then forcing the whole magic community to start working on their own magic again, and they were all like little children and they basically couldn't use their magic because they were so used to just using someone else's magic. And the whole idea, like, who came up with, let's just give them babies. No one will miss babies.
Yeah.
You're not attached to them yet.
I know.
I don't know. It's just, I mean, I thought it was, I really liked it. And someone described it as Harry Potter for adults. And it is kind of like, it's the challenges and all of this and that. And it was good. It was adult. It wasn't teenagey. It was grown up. There was grown up topics. People doing shady as shit stuff here and there and everywhere. And there's lots of unravel. But I would have maybe, in a way, it was cool the way she told the story because we got it from so many different perspectives that we really knew what was going on. But it could have been easier to follow if we would have followed maybe 2-3 people at the max.
Yeah.
And then really gotten kind of known what they know and then having to figure other stuff out kind of thing.
Yeah. That's a good point.
But I would be excited to read another book in this series because I liked it a lot.
Yeah, cool.
So, would you recommend it?
Yeah, sure. Harry Potter for adults. Who wouldn't want to read it?
Anita would read it.
Yeah.
We should make her read it. Let's make her read it. And now we're moving on, and you chose the next book because, what did you say?
My brain is broke. And I can only handle, like, easy romantic comedies in my small brain right now. And not to say that romantic comedies are not as well-written books or anything like that, but the stories are simpler.
Really well-written.
Yeah, the stories are simpler and predictable, and I don't need to follow too many things. Like this Unkindness book, while it was really good, I think I should have read it before all of this crazy baby stuff because I couldn't remember and I wasn't there with it.
I did not have a tiny baby and I struggled with figuring out and keeping people apart kind of thing.
So we're moving on to a simple story with very little people in it.
2.
There are 2 people we need to know about. And I didn't read too many reviews on this book other than it's been a book that's been in a bunch of lists of similar books that I've read and like to read. And then I have read a lot of books from this author, which I didn't even realize. But when we did our podcast episode last year where we talked about tropes, this author's book, the author's Christina Lauren, right?
Yeah.
This author's book, Beautiful Bastard, it is a whole series. I think there's 9 of them or something like that. I read them last summer. And because of the trope episode that we did, it was like, this is like the grumpy guy and the like nerdy girl, and she's going to be the one who makes him not grumpy anymore. And I was like, oh, I love that trope. So I read the book and then I continued to read all of the other books in that series. And then I read another one that I didn't like as much. Another romantic comedy of hers that was just a one-off. And this is also just a one-off. But
I read her autobiography, which is one of hers, I believe. Because it was the only one, like, maybe it's not her, maybe I'm speaking out of my
But this book that we're reading is called Love and Other Words.
Yeah, autobiography, I read that back in 2021. Feels like ages ago, but apparently it was only last summer. And I gave it 4 stars, so clearly I did like this.
And I think in comparison to the Beautiful Bastard series, this book is way more beyond. Like, it's better written. But
I mean, I'm happy to read romance as long as I don't have to read Colleen Hoover, because I will not do any more Colleen Hoover.
No, because the It Ends With Us, that one.
Oh, it's that one, and then the Ugly Love, or whatever. And there was another one I read by her, and it is too much of the mistaking. Hopeless is the one I read. Mistaking stalkerish behavior for romance.
Oh, no.
And I could not with that. It's like in Hopeless, like she's in the car and this guy comes and knocks on the door and he's like really demanding and stuff, and she's like, okay. And I don't know, I can't remember the whole, but I remember it leaving me feeling icky, and I refused to do Colleen Hoover after those because
I'm fine with that because I didn't like the It Ends With Us.
No, I think it's too much.
Yeah. And I know that you've been traumatized by having to read A Princess for Christmas.
And now, lately, I know I told you all to go and read the Mark of the Raven when we talked about that book, but I finished the series and honestly did not realize very much in book 1 how very Christian fantasy this is, but it became super apparent in book 2, where the whole book is literally about her finding God.
Yeah.
And putting her life in his hand. And I cannot why does God and good have to be a man? I can't.
No.
I cannot do it. Like, woman, evil. This book was like, every good thing was a man, every bad thing was a woman. I'm like, really? Really? Can't shake it up a little bit? Can't the light be an it?
Yeah.
And the darkness be an it?
And can't light just be goddamn light? Light
no,
is
it's him.
It is him.
The light, him.
All right. Yeah, I don't
It
love
was
that.
torturous, many hours. I mean, I was in it for the story of Celine and Damien and, you know, the war part, but it could have been like
But
much
good for you for
shorter
pushing through and finishing.
if, you know, we would have just cut all the preaching.
Yeah, I mean, you have a hard spot, I should say, not a soft spot or sore spot for inequality also. So when it goes heavy against women, you can't do it.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I'm getting more
Feminist as
I get older.
But
I
that's...
still remember my teenage self being like, I don't think feminism is important. And now I'm like, stupid teenage self! Should have been fighting for this from the beginning. Do you not know?
But it's so very true. When I was a teenager, I was like, but that's what guys do. Like,
Yeah.
Like, push it off like this is all just normal stuff. And now as I'm getting older, and of course the world is also changing too. Like we're having our eyes more open to inequality and things like that. Now I'm standing up for, you know, rights of being paid equal, and that is unacceptable. Not just the Me Too unacceptability, but just overall how gender inequality is more prevalent than I've ever seen it before. But maybe because I'm an adult now.
Yeah. I mean, we do grow up. We never stop growing.
How will we feel when we are old ladies?
You mean we're not older ladies already?
No, we're not.
No, we're still in our 20s, right?
I'm 27 forever.
I don't know. What if you could choose an age to be for the rest of your life? What age?
My brain just goes 27. It's just
27 was always mine.
Yeah.
I always said 27 because I find that under 25 you're just too young. Like there's too much stuff you don't know. You think you know shit, but you know nothing.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, now 30s is not that bad, but 27 feels like young enough, but you still have like, you can get a decent job at 27 kind of thing.
Sure.
Because you have like enough experience and stuff. But
I was managing a political office when I was 25, and I think that made me be more mature at 27.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that at 27 was like I had all of my like relationship experience, work experience, travel experience, and then met like my love who I'm now married to and stuff. So I think 27 was the age where I felt adulty.
I had a kid.
Yeah, you had kids.
I had my boy was 2 when I was 27.
Yeah, so then you knew more stuff because you became a mom. 27 is a good age. We will stay there. So world, we are not old ladies. We are
27. 27 forever. We're starting like a new brand. It's not Forever 21. It's Forever 27.
But brilliant.
Yeah.
Done and done.
Done and done. All right, good. But we will be reading this Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren until next week. Should not take us very long. I think you're almost done.
Finished.
Yeah, I just started, so I have some catching up to do. But until then, happy reading.
Happy reading.
Bye.
Bye.
We'd Rather Be Reading is an original podcast by Jerrica and Lia The music for The Penguins, written and performed by David Allred from the album The Transition, courtesy of Erased Tapes. Please check him out on Spotify and check us out on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at We'd Rather Be Reading and Twitter at We'd Rather Read. You can also email us at we'dratherbereadingthepod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.